All right, man. Welcome to the podcast, Sander. Welcome
Yeah,
back, man.
thanks, man, for having me. It's
Yeah, thanks for
an
being here
honor.
again. Sorry.
Yeah, it's an honor. Thank you. Yeah, it was really nice that you asked me and asked me again, and also the reactions. I didn't expect them. Um, well, actually, I didn't expect so much, but yeah, it was really nice that some people reached out. So yeah, so
Yeah,
nice to make some kind of an impact. Absolutely.
absolutely agree. Because for the people listening at home, we just called, so we had a short conversation before, and Sander asked me a couple of questions. I asked him a couple of questions, but he also asked me like who would be like the most ideal listener. Um, and yeah, that is of course you, everybody who is listening. But yeah, Sander asked a little bit more deeply for how does he look like? If you could paint a picture or describe him. And then I came to the conclusion that actually um I am making this for the people who feel that that they are the only ones going through these emotions. And actually that also refers to my inner child. It refers to Sander's inner child, and also it refers to your inner child. Um, just being there for ourselves. That is, I think, one of the most important things.
Yeah, indeed,
Yeah.
and it really moved me. This didn't expect to hear like the little Tommy or the little Sander to come up, but yeah, then I saw also this because you said like the part that didn't want to reach out or ask for help yet. Yeah, so that really moved me because I indeed realized I connected with this little Sander immediately and saw the suffering and the hurt. Um, and the helplessness and the hopelessness and the depression basically. And yeah, so I think this is a very nice thing what we can do for ourselves, but ultimately also for others. Because if we take care of ourselves, then we can also better reach out to others.
Mm, absolutely. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, man. So yeah, we discussed before and what we were going to talk about. So we had a couple of things, right? What we wanted to discuss. So
yeah.
we will get to this time. So what part or what topic exactly do you want to share with us today?
Um, well, I like to always freestyle and free flow, but we already discussed a few topics, and yeah, so act the impact of act in my life, and not necessarily so the act is acceptance and commitment therapy for those who are unfamiliar with that. And basically, that is a method, a therapy form, of a way of treatment that is oriented on psychological flexibility. Yeah, that sounds very complicated, but it's basically resilience.
Mm,
And it's one for some who know psychology. It's like it's a cognitive behavioral therapy form, but it is very different than the traditional one because in the traditional cognitive behavioral therapy, the aim is to reduce suffering by um, changing thought. And ACT, acceptance and commitment therapy, is a little bit different because the aim is not to change suffering, but rather to accept suffering as part of life and to change the way we look at things. And by that, the things we look at change, as Wayne Dyer sometimes famously said. And so it's changing perspective a lot of the times and accepting. But yeah, so we can go into that a little bit deeper later. But what I found was that this really helped me. Well, I came across it, like I was doing Aikido, and in this school, they also were giving these acceptance and commitment therapy trainer trainings. And this guy talked about it, and he said, like, hey, is this not something for you? And then I realized, hey, this is indeed very, yeah, I can relate to this. This like a structure of topics that I understand that already resonated with me in how I approach things over the last few years. And it was a nice structure because I was seeking because I hate myself. I had some transformation in my personal life, and this was as a method kind of that made me understand my own process better, and that's why I became interested in it, and why I wanted to learn more about it. But as we were talking about it this afternoon, and I realized that that not all these things that I've learned I'm actually applying right now. So that was also very confrontational. It made me remember again these beautiful fruits and gifts that are in this method or approach. And because you asked me to share a little bit about that, and I'm happy that you did, because it was also a great opportunity to look inside and to see, hey, am I living in integrity with what I know, and what I actually apply. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. And Sander and I always have awesome discussions, and we learn a lot about ourselves mostly. And also one of the things that they teach us in neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, is that they believe that everybody has their own truths, their own resources, and we are all whole and complete to begin with, basically. So we all exactly know what we need to do when we go inward, and we listen to ourselves, to our higher self and our intuition. Those are all tools that you also can use. And what Sander just mentioned is he came across acceptance commitment therapy, excuse me. So basically, he learned all the tools, but he just needed to be remembered about it, I think, right?
Yeah, because I'm actually, even though I'm an ACT trainer, I'm currently not applying them in my work either. It kind of faded away, and sometimes I feel like there is some universal truth in life in general, and there are different packages, albeit through NLP or psychology or ACT or you just name it, and they all tap into the same principles. Like you could say as a metaphor, what they also actually use a lot in ACT metaphors, but to say like, okay, like math just is unfolding by reality, there's some structure in life, and math explains that through formulas and numbers, basically. But it actually, what is the word? It's just an understanding. Try to create an understanding of something that is already there. And I think it doesn't matter really so much which often it doesn't really matter which way you choose. Ultimately, it leads to the same thing because the same principles are underneath it. Of human existence and life, basically. I don't know what I wanted to go to with that, and I don't know what your question was anymore, but or your statement. But I hope that was an answer to the question.
Yeah, I guess so. Because sometimes my mind I also tend to forget some things, especially when you're sleep deprived as I am. So, but that's not a big problem. So, in the future, I wanted to ask Sander to share a little bit more wisdom about ACT and about what he has learned. I don't know if you want to maybe dive deeper into the next one.
Yeah. So the beginning in ACT is, I don't want to be too theoretical and just speak from my own experience a little bit, because the theory might also doesn't really point to the essence, and I think the story will hold the information that is necessary to see the transformation as I went through it. But what I realized is in my personal, I shall tell a story. I was like, I was really suffering a lot from an identity crisis. I didn't know who I was, and I didn't know the Sander that was underneath the drinking Sander. I drank for so long, and I smoked so much weed for so long that I felt, who is this guy? I was doing this basically since I was with you in the class. I said
we were young.
Years ago.
We were young back then.
Years ago,
too
we
young.
were in each other's class, and I lost track of this real inner child. I would say maybe. Of course the self shines through ultimately, so really lost you cannot get. If it's always there, although you don't see it, it's a different discussion. But so I felt I lost track of who I was, and I was completely in disconnect with myself. And when I at some point came to a pinnacle, a crisis, I really didn't want to live anymore. And it's like, at least not like that anymore, you know? I was looking inside and said, okay, is this really helping what I've been doing, you know? I wanted to figure out, and that's like a thing which you see also with depression. You try to find a cause for your suffering. So you start seeking, and then you start to analyze your past, and that's like, maybe this was an effect, and this, and at some point, you get like a lot of knowledge maybe about things that might have happened, or perspectives, or thoughts, or and as Eckhart Tolle says, basically, they give you some information about all concepts and about things, but it doesn't really touch the essence of who you are, you know? So you can, after years of therapy or years of analyzing or ruminating, you now suddenly know who you are, but it is actually not who you are, you know? Because like if he uses the analogy of the metaphor of a tree, like a tree can have leaves, and it can be it has a certain position maybe, and a color, and maybe if the wind passes, it even has a sound, you know, and it has a certain kind of feel to it when you touch it, and you can write a book about it and find out about all the different traits, and you can go really deep and look under it under a microscope and on an atomic level. But in essence, you cannot grasp that. You have still the book about it and all the theory about it and all the experiences you have. Transformed into language, and this language, they're based on vocal sounds or on letters, on sounds, but ultimately it doesn't really grasp the tree. It's just a concept of this tree, and you can have a lot of concepts about this tree, but the true essence is not really, it will never be possible to put that into words or songs or into whatever, and what I realized is that for example, that I felt okay, I try to analyze and ruminate and I do all these things, but how helpful are they actually? Does it really help? And I realized, I'm now searching for so long, and even if I get an answer, does it really solve my problem?
Yeah.
And it's actually something that they also ask you in ACT with, what did you do before? What strategies do you have, to deal with your suffering? And how does it help you? How does it help you on the short term? And how does it help you in the long term? And what I realized, not necessarily through ACT, but through having all these problems, that I felt these problems are an excuse to not go to create the intimate relationship that I wanted. There were a lot of uncertainties. I wanted to have certainty. It's like, okay, who am I? And if I didn't have this certainty, I used this as an excuse. Well, not literally, I didn't know that, but it was not consciously, but I used it as an excuse to not move on. And I realized what is the consequence of that is then that probably if what Tony Robbins always said, if I keep doing what I always did, I will keep having what I always had.
Yeah.
So that was a kick in the balls, kind of, about like, okay, maybe maybe I cannot change these thoughts, and maybe I have all these uncertainties of who I am, and I can maybe not know if I approach a person if this is completely sincere, because I don't know who I am or what I want, maybe I just have to figure it out, and maybe by doing things,
Yeah.
And if I'm not doing these things, then my life will be pretty miserable. It is already miserable in this way, but maybe I just have to accept that it's miserable and deal with do then what I maybe think I desire, because I didn't even know that 100%. So let's move on, let's try despite of having all these problems. And I think that was very scary to begin with.
It requires a lot of courage. So
but the price was clear, the price of not changing became very clear. And I think that was, as Tony Robbins also said, when the pain of not changing, how did he say, if the pain of not changing becomes bigger than the pain of change is easy.
Yeah.
That is easier.
Easier, yeah.
And that, this is actually, a big part of what ACT also does. It's it accepts, the situation, the pain and the suffering. But for that, you sometimes have to see what the price is and what your strategy, how helpful or not helpful that actually is. So that was a little bit of a long story, and I hope it was not too vague. But if that is like that, you can always ask a question, and I will take it into to the next.
Yeah, because if you have any questions to the people who are listening, you can contact me at Instagram, Tao Life Coach, and the Press to Success. But can they also ask you questions directly?
Absolutely, yeah. I cannot promise I respond immediately, obviously, but I try to go through them and respond. So don't feel personal offended if you don't get a reply to immediately.
No.
But I will.
Yeah, of course. Or you can just send us both a message if you have questions, because Sander and I talk on a regular, right? So either way, we will get back to you. One more thing that I want to add with the acceptance part. I think it's super important that I think a lot of people struggle with a simple question: who are we really? So like not who are we? Because normally when you ask somebody who they are, what do? They tell us their names, which they didn't choose. It was given to them by their parents. Goes for all of them. They follow up about with their age and the profession and what they studied most of the times. But that is not really who we are, though. So that's only just a small fraction of who we are. So even though it is a super simple question, who are we? The answer isn't always that clear.
Yeah.
So I think that that could also be like a whole different topic for another podcast focused on identity.
Yeah.
And
And a
finding,
lot of it is indeed also with the depression, right? That is formed at a young age, and that we have these stories that when our identity was formed, kind of just were built in. What you I said that. You focus on expands, right? So the more you live in a certain way, you create it also more, so it becomes stronger.
Yeah.
And
sorry. Yeah.
No, yeah. Just to go back as a recap of what I just said before with the act part, it's like indeed like what you can ask yourself is, what did I do so far to solve my problem, and how helpful is that, either on the short term and on the long term, and then make up your mind if you want to continue to use the strategy that you're using.
Yeah, because you also mentioned in our conversation beforehand, creative hopelessness, right?
Yeah, so that's more the technical term indeed. But the uncertainty, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. Also as a therapist, people might come to you with wanting to, or a teacher or a friend, they want a solution. They want to get rid of the suffering. They don't want to be in the suffering. And the ultimate escape to go out of the suffering is to kill yourself, And we try to get out the pain, and we try to get out the frustration, and we try to get out the anger, right? We try to get out all the nastiness as we experience it. But, you cannot really escape it. That comes back like a boomerang.
Sorry, what did you say?
Comes back like a boomerang. It always keeps sneaking up on you.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to find a solution to get rid of it, and of course you can try, but then the question is, how effective have you been so far?
Yeah, man, but it's a heavy topic, especially you just spoke about suicide basically, and of course, to be real, I have thoughts I have had thoughts about suicide. Luckily, I never did, and I never took concrete plans. But I went to 113, that is the suicide prevention center in the Netherlands. So if you are from the Netherlands and you are struggling with it, it's best to call them. You can look it up in Google, but if you're listening from a different country, I am sure there is an organization in your country. Just Google it. You are responsible for your own health, and you are absolutely more than worth it. And what they told, or one of the things I've learned from going to the gatekeeper training at 113 suicide prevention, is just talking about it is helpful for everybody. And when people say or believe that they want to end their suffering and they want to really start thinking about committing suicide, they are not completely wrong by thinking that, because when you look at it, of course it is one solution away from the suffering, but I think that should never be the first, and you should never do it in the first place. But there are so many ways out of it. Things like ACT, things like mindfulness, things like going to a therapy, a doctor, talking about friends, listening to podcasts, not just this one, but the information is everywhere. Do your own research and find yourself. We spoke about identity. It's super important to know who you are. That, for me at least, was also one of the reasons why I got depressed, because I didn't really know who I was. For the people who are not watching the YouTube version but listening on the podcast, I am half Indonesian, and so that was also like a part of my identity crisis. But that is something for another part. But knowing who you are, it makes a lot of difference, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also a great paradox at the same time. I think it's also at the same time, you know, all this information as I started in the beginning, and it's also just a perspective, right? And just take what suits you and not suits you, leave that. But knowing who you are at the same time can also lead to, as it can be a strategy to just avoid life. So sometimes, as I felt I needed some absolute certainty, but why not figure it out through living, you know? Why do its children do that too, you know? So it is important indeed to know who you are, but to figure that out, maybe we cannot think our way into that, but more rather experience it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So
sometimes we are too much in our head, and we just have to do things, try things, experience things indeed. And we make mistakes along the way, but as they always say, when you learn something from your mistakes, then it is worth it. And I also think that when I look at my inner child, for example, is a different person than who I am now, and I probably will be a different person than I am in a couple of years. And also this podcast was super out of my comfort zone, but I felt it was super necessary. And luckily I've spoken up, and by speaking up, I brought Sander to the podcast. I brought Alvarito, Nick, and a couple of more people to the podcast, and just by speaking about it really makes a difference. I wanted to add something else, but that's flown away. But yeah, it's also about, I think, finding yourself again and finding different parts of yourself, and loving each part of yourself, basically. Self-love is also very important, self-acceptance.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you touch on a very on a nice few nice topics, and just one of the things that popped in my mind also about knowing who you are is I did some volunteer job at the Youth at Risk. So it's like an organization that helps children who have like crime. Um, what is that? Like, yeah, some crime experiences with justice system. So they usually get there by the law, as a last resort sort of, okay, you go to jail or you take this opportunity. And what you have that children from 12 till 18 years old. And what was shocking me when I saw it is that some children already at a very young age, 12, 13, were saying, yeah, but this is just how I am, who I am.
Mm.
And they just, they without questioning, and we all do it though, but when you see somebody say that at such a young age, say something, for example, I don't know the exact word what he said, like, but yeah, I'm just a fucker, for example, or I'm stupid or whatever. They just didn't question maybe this belief that was installed by, I don't know, a teacher, a parent, a caregiver, somebody at some point started to believe that and say, oh yeah, I'm like that, or maybe there's even like something like, oh yeah, but I cannot do public speaking. I'm not a talkative person, or I'm not like this, or not like that, and they already limit themselves so much, by saying that. Whereas children often can also just figure things out. They try on this role and they try on that role, and as we become older, we become less flexible in that almost, like, and then we start to think, indeed, now are we this person that is not talkative or not social or not like I don't know, whatever you can fill it in. And one of my realizations was also, okay, fuck it, you have to just play and try out different things, especially when you're older as well, because identity, I heard this quote once, identity is nothing else than repeated beingness, so just try out things, and after a while you can say, oh, this is the way I am. But just figure things out. It's like a jacket, you can just try on different jackets.
Absolutely, yeah. And how cool is it also, sometimes I see it as everybody has and is their own book, and it's a writing process, right? So the version you are in the introduction in the chapter 1 is not the end version. So I think for everybody, every chapter is different. We build on ourselves, so we evolve, we learn along the way. We learn from our mistakes, but we also learn from the good choices. We shouldn't forget that, and we should also give some credit to that, because sometimes when you would only do like the best things and you would never make a mistake, you might not even really value the things you did right.
Yeah.
And it's also where the focus lies, I think.
Absolutely. It's how we are wired, indeed. Often we focus so much more on the negative things than on the positive things. So that needs some conscious direction of thought or energy, attention. I mean, about these things, and if especially when this critical part comes up, right? Like, it's like if you start listening to that only, sometimes it's hard. At least I can speak from experience. I thought it was very hard to focus on these things, because I felt it was never good enough, And how can you be happy when you feel this way? So
man, but you are absolutely good enough. So So for the people listening, Sander is one of my closest circle, my best friends. So I continuously learn from him also, just by being here and talking and sharing his viewpoint and his stories. And as we mentioned before, we got some positive feedback on the story of Sander. So if you haven't listened to it yet, go check it out on Spotify. And that is also something, because sometimes we think we are fuck ups, or we messed something up, or it wasn't good enough, or it wasn't perfect, and then we do it anyway. For example, this podcast, and we put it online without expectations, and then we still get positive feedback. But that's not just it's not just that, but a lot of times we do things that sometimes we do things to impress others, or to give value to others, or we do it for others, but we don't always get the feedback directly. So a lot of people might like you for who you are. A lot of people might like you for what you do, but not everybody will communicate that. And also, when we're talking about communicating, it's also like the internal communication. Even though that is sometimes where we think we do it for, what is most important in the end of the day is what we communicate to ourselves. We should be really grateful and happy and loving ourselves, and we shouldn't need the validation from others. And I know that's easier said than done, because I do it all the time still, even though I know a little bit, or I think I know how it works, at least for me. Sometimes we still fall in the trap, but that's also what makes us human, and what connects us with each other, and also sharing our vulnerabilities. Just that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are a few things that popped into my mind, but one of the things that is not related to what you just said in general, but more like to the part where we were speaking about it before, is with this jacket of that we can try on different jackets. But then actually I remember that in ACT there's actually also this metaphor of we have this jacket that doesn't fit us, and we keep wearing it, and we are like in a weird position, and that is just who we think we are, and then you just can just wear a new jacket,
Also with the jacket, sorry, but sometimes we think we are the jacket, right? Or we need to fit in the jacket just because we got it from somebody, even if it's our parents. We got a jacket from our parents, but it doesn't fit, and we still keep wearing them, and it doesn't make us comfortable. So
you were also telling that this afternoon, right? That some patterns, like you decided that you don't want to wear anymore. And some jackets, like they're some old clothes.
Basically. And old energy. So
it's so great, like all these realizations actually, but also what you said about like the self-compassionate part, and this self-acceptance part, like that we should be more nurture that. I think this metaphor of a garden is actually also very, very nice, in that that we can nurture this garden and pick out the weeds, kind of, and weeds also as a metaphor for all the things that don't serve us anymore. But so I heard this guy saying this quote about what is said it in Dutch, but like what you don't focus on expands, but what you ignore woekert. I don't know what's in English, but that's also sometimes very important, because sometimes by ignoring certain aspects, that goes out of control. You can for such a long time ignore certain aspects, but at some point it starts to grow and to grow and to grow, and it gets out of hand, and then it will demand your attention.
So
it's very good at that.
So when I understand you correctly, it's like or maybe our mind is also like a garden, and we have weeds, and if we don't get rid of the weeds, and the weeds are maybe a metaphor for other people's opinions or negative beliefs, or self-limiting beliefs. If we don't tend to, and we let them grow, then we have a problem. So we have to be aware of it, be conscious of it, and get rid of them, I think. And maybe replace them with plants we like, with real weeds. example.
Yeah, and in ACT I would say that's often our values, you know, they're more like directions and not necessarily like tangible things. But yeah, I was actually that also as a side point, like I realized I was talking actually about the guy that was telling me about this metaphor about like what you focus on expands and what you don't what you ignore that like I don't know still not the word but who gets like that it grows gets out of hand kind of because he said basically before we had a discussion I was like focusing on the ideal self, you know, because we have this sometimes I was reading this book it's definitely what is that a tip recommendation about on my own side that this have been very influential and I'm learning still, but it's basically a book about getting on your own side as the title says it, and to be more self-compassionate and a lot of other things, and dealing with your inner critic. And what I realized, one of these ideas that he shared was like this aspect of the ideal self, that we feel like, we have to be this person. And he was sharing his, like, I need to be a super coach and I need to blah, blah, blah. You can fill in the blank, but you can figure it out for yourself. What is your ideal self? Sometimes when you think about that, like, let's say, I don't know, let's be the super coach and all people, I earn a lot of money and all people are thrilled about what I do, and I can change people's lives in an instant, like in the blink of an eye, and there is I say that it always works, you know, and then you kind of know if you dealing with this ideal self, if you get this almost adrenaline rush through you that you think, wow, yeah, that's it, you know. But actually, what is on the other side of the ideal self? That's more like the mundane self, you know, the maybe even the failing self, or at least the one. The opposite, or at least the middle somewhere, you know, the mediocre self. And are we still so thrilled about that, you know? When and that was for me in this conversation, that was like something, okay, I got a job for it's a story, it's a side story to make it more clear. I got a job in a company that I really was looking forward to as a youth coach, and I noticed that I was super excited about it. It was an opportunity since a long time. I felt such a great match there. I went through the first round, second round, and I could. The first round was like the solicitation, and then you could go to walk. It's like to work a few days there, basically to see if it's a match from both sides. And my girlfriend was super happy, and my family was super happy. I was super happy. You were super happy. Everyone was super happy. So and I was already because I came from a financial situation also where I almost had no money, and I felt like for a yes I can now go on a holiday, and I can buy a car, and I can do all these things. So I started already to
order those things.
I already had them in my mind, but then I realized, okay, so. This is the ideal self also that thrives and has success, and that does its job very well, and that people look up to, and that your family is happy and your friends are happy with you, but also in general, you know. And then I don't know, somebody in my circle, my close circle, that thinks that like, but you should not dream so much, kind of, you don't have it yet. You're still in the process of getting there. Yeah, it's such a disappointment when it doesn't work out. And then when I was driving there for this few days that I had to work there, I was having this conversation with myself to say, like, you know what? You came far. And even though you might, things don't turn out as you wish they would, I'm still there for you. And then you come into this, basically this inner child, right? Like say, like, yeah, it doesn't really matter if you succeed or fail, if you get the money or not get the money, or if you get the success or not to get the success, or the admiration or not get the admiration, or it doesn't really matter. I'm there for you, either way, I am there for you. And that really could allowed me to be in the moment when I was there, to say like, okay, it doesn't really matter. I could just focus on the now, I focus on the now. And yeah, the whole point where I was starting this story, because you may be listening and you think, what the fuck is he telling this story? is that this, what you focus on expands and what you don't grows, and I think this guy gave me his advice, and that was maybe smart to say in the beginning, but this guy gave me his advice. Yeah, just why would you not want to know this idol self? Or why are you even busy with that? Just be in the moment, be in the now. And I thought about it, and then I thought, yeah, it's not that I want to give this more attention than it needs, or to I just want to have clarity about this ideal self, so it doesn't run me, so when it comes, I can just say, hey, you there, or whatever, I can notice it and let it go. But first, sometimes if you don't have a very clear understanding of this aspects of ourselves, they tend to be more in control without you even knowing, And for the younger listeners, like, don't be don't think but I don't know all these things about myself. I don't know what I feel. I know what I feel shitty, and angry and depressed. But beyond that, it's just like one blur. Don't think that these things, or Tommy, that is super, that there's something wrong with you, especially, we are all figuring it out as we go, That's one thing I would say, and I think sometimes knowing these aspects can help us to let go of them, and to see, they're just parts of us. I can just, I don't have to, they don't have to govern me, So that these are my weeds, or maybe not, you can just, maybe not even, you don't have to name them, but obviously you can see, like, okay, is this something I want to give power or not, and is this the only way?
Yeah, and some people like weeds, so.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard this other guy. He was saying like, that was so for the guys, for persons, the women, the people that are into Eckhart Tolle. He was talking about the pain body all the time. Have you ever heard about it, pain body?
No, but I let a pain in my body for a while. But
yeah, he has this concept called the pain body, and it's basically this part of us that. Egoic entity, so to say, that lives inside of us, and that is drawn to pain and drama and ego, basically, and it wants to grow. The only thing it wants to do is exist, and the more attention we give it, the more power we give it, the bigger it gets, and we can feed it in different ways, what I won't get into. But yeah, if you can look into it, like the book of Eckhart Tolle, the New Earth. But he said this Eckhart Tolle, he has this German accent, and he was always talking about the pain body. And I cannot do the accent so very great as this guy, but he thought always he would say the body, like as a friend, the pain body.
Oh, and, buddy, yeah. Only thing.
So it got a completely different meaning for this guy. It's like, then you have the pain body. Yeah. And that actually was a very helpful way of looking at it for him as well. So I thought it was good.
Yeah, exactly. Because I was thinking, because seeing pain as your buddy, as your friend, might also be a way to look at it. Because when you listen to the pain, you know exactly where not to go, or sometimes where you have to go through, right?
Yeah.
That's one thing. Sometimes, like what you are looking for lies behind pain, and pain is actually one of the greatest teachers in our lives, I think. So he might not be completely wrong with his German accent.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah.
Okay, man. Yeah, thanks for sharing, man. I think we're gonna wrap it up in a bit. And thanks again, man. Learned a lot even in this conversation, even though we just spoke like a couple of hours ago. So yeah, thanks again, and I look forward to our next podcast.
Yeah. Thank you for having me, and also for your openness. And I think I think there are so many different strategies or tools or insights or ways of looking at the world. And I would say indeed, like, just take the things that work and for you, and just ignore the rest. And because there is not one truth, I believe. There's many different truths. So just take what works, and what doesn't work, just let that be.
Yeah, and a quick disclaimer: I'm not a psychiatrist or psychologist. I am a depression survivor and a certified life coach. But if you are still struggling with real feelings and thoughts of depression, or even worse, suicide, please reach out to friends, family, doctors. Find the lifelines in your country. In the Netherlands, it's 113 113. Look it up and find and get the help you deserve. And trust me, it really can get better, because take it from somebody who absolutely believed with every cell in his body that there was no way out. I'm still here. I'm feeling the best I ever did. Of course, last week was a very tough week for me. And what I've learned is that I go through the same feelings and emotions as when I was depressed. But then when I was depressed, that was my default setting. So it would last like for months without an end, without hope. But now I feel the same emotions, but the next day it's gone. So yeah, that also builds resilience. And that also gives hope. So I absolutely believe with every cell in my body now that you can do it too, if I can do it. So thanks for listening, everybody. Thanks for being here. Sander, thanks for being on the podcast again, and I look forward to our next one.
Yeah, thank you, Tom, for also sharing that, and for creating this opportunity to speak out and to be of service to all people suffering depression and having a difficult time. And I also remembered some statistic, not exactly, but there was like about people that tried to commit suicide. That I don't know the exact number, but at least more people, more than 50% of the people who tried were very happy that it didn't work out ultimately. And there was this guy who jumped off a bridge in Los Angeles, where I saw this in a clip of YouTube. Maybe you can find it and we'll share it somewhere. He jumped off a bridge, the Golden Bridge, the bridge, I think, and he broke almost every body part or something. And the moment he jumped, he already thought, "Shit, I don't want to die."
Yeah.
So.
But that's also because I think, of course, for everybody, it probably is different. But when I felt that way and I had those thoughts, it really wasn't per se that I wanted to die. It was just that I wanted to feel something, or at least I didn't want to feel all those heavy emotions. So I only felt heavy, bad, sad, depressed emotions, but I couldn't feel joy. So what I actually wanted by thinking about suicide was that I want to escape. I wanted to flee because I was tired of fighting all the time. But that's also like when you focus on what you don't want, that's not necessarily focusing on what you do want. And to be able to focus on what you do want, it helps a lot knowing yourself, your identity, and your purpose in life. So also the next podcast, or one of the next podcasts, I'm going to talk about purpose in life and ikigai. And purpose in life is one of the things that is the reason that I'm still here. And what I'm doing right now is my purpose. So the depression I had, I'm thankful for it, because that enabled me to do what I am doing. It enabled me to make career switch, because I did international business. Absolutely hated every second of it. But now I'm doing my life's work, and that is also very helpful. If you know who you are and you know what you want to do, you know what you can contribute in your life, because I believe we are all here for a reason other than just making money. Then it's very, very, very difficult to still feel depressed if you know those things and if you are pursuing those things actively.
Yeah, that's very beautiful how you said that. And I think indeed, like what I don't know, Gabor Mate, I think he's like this medical doctor that worked with people with trauma and addictions. Did some work around ayahuasca as well, and treatment. And he was like saying, if I remember correctly, that I misquote him, but he's like, of course, there are many definitions for depression, but depression, in layman terms, could you say, is the absence of hope. And I guess what you said about purpose is actually, the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And what obviously there can be a lot of different reasons why we are depressed, and we can talk about these things another time. But yeah, so hope in certain aspects of your life. If you cannot see a solution yet, then that can be very terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
For you it was, for example, this you wanted to get out of these feelings, but for others, for me it was like I could not see myself in a functional relationship and a happy life, kind of, so that was depressing to me. And for others, it's like the loss of somebody that kind of also triggers the same kind of feelings,
Yeah, but that's also a different type of depression, because that also might be a topic for another podcast, because there are a couple of types of depression. So it's also good to know to look into that.
Yeah, thank you, man, and thanks for listening. And I'm looking forward to have the next conversation with you, man.
Me too, man. High five.
High five.